Okay, let's look at a fabric zipper tab. Now what I've done is I've cut out a square of my exterior fabric that is 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. So it's a square. And I've added a piece of woven fusible interfacing that is 1 3/4 wide by 1 1/4 high. And I've added it centrally so that I've got basically 1/4 of an inch either side. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold over those edges that are exposed either side of the fusible interfacing. So I'm just creating a hem effectively. And what I would usually use, I'm going to grab it because I want to use it for this, is a tailor's clapper. Just gives a really nice sharp fold. Creases are what you get in clothes when you don't iron them, isn't it? So I'm just going to lay the clapper on top, now it's heated, and give it 2 seconds to cool down, and hopefully what we'll have is they're nicely crisp folds turned in. Let's get rid of these first. The clips, I do end up with a lot of clips. Oh, didn't actually fold that one in very well, so let's just do that one again. So what happens when you're not looking what you're doing. A tailor's clapper isn't essential, it's just something I like to use. Just helps to give a really nice sharp fold. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold it in half, right sides together, and I'm just going to clip it so those little folded hems stay folded. Now we've used the number 5 zipper on here, so our zipper tape is 1 1/4 inch wide. So what we need to do is do perfect 1/4 inch seams on either side of this, so this ends up being 1 1/4 inch wide. So I'm just going to take it to my machine and very, very carefully I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam down one side I'm going to get rid of my threads, and then exactly the same on the other side, making sure that those folds stay folded over and that my seam allowance is perfectly. Let's just find an awl to keep those threads, those folds folded over. As I was stitching from the bottom, my foot's inclined to push those folds up, which I don't really want. So I've now created that. I'm going to trim off the corners on the top and the bottom, and then reduce the seam allowance down to about 1/8 of an inch. Trim off the corners on the top and the bottom, and reduce the seam allowance down to about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to turn it right side out. And I'm going to use a pokey tool to poke out my corners. Now there are lots and lots of ways of doing this. You can do it with a bit of faux leather even, and just leave raw edges, but I just prefer, if you're going to do it with fabric. If you've got a fabric bag, I think it looks quite nice. And then you can take your bag and your zipper. Now if you want to cut your zipper down in length, you can do. This is about, I think it's probably about okay. I usually tuck my zippers inside the bag because I don't like to see them hanging out the side. And what you should be able to do is fit your zipper into your zipper tab. Now, if your zipper tab feels a little bit snug, that's fine. You can just fold the edges of your zipper in slightly, as long as you do it the same on both sides. But it should, as long as you've done the right seam allowance, you should have a zipper tab that fits perfectly. Now use an awl to push your zipper right in to make sure it's right down at the bottom of your tab. And once it's there and on, just get rid of some of these bits and pieces because we seem to be gathering stuff here. You can take this to the machine. You can see that fits on there nicely. You can take it to the machine and you can stitch just come on, Christine, you're getting into a muddle now. You can stitch across that top folded edge. Don't forget you're going to be going over those zipper teeth, so go slowly. You're going to basically stitch all the way around the outside of your tab. Now you may need to kind of move your bag through your machine to be able to do that, because you're going to be then you can remove any long threads you've got or little bits that are unpleasant. Now if you want to pop a couple of rivets through there as well, you can do, but that's perfectly secure. It's not going anywhere, and the end of your zipper is perfectly sealed that way. And I just tuck it in the bag because I don't think, because it hasn't got the blingy bit on it, I don't think it needs to be hanging on the outside. I have in the past made my zipper shorter and actually attached it, the zipper tab, to the strap connectors, putting a couple of rivets through. You'd have to put a couple of rivets through on the other side to make it look the same though. I find that annoys me a bit, but it's a possibility if that's something you fancy doing, just having them tucked in there. So I'm going to go and gather my strap hardware for you, and we'll show you how to create a strap properly. Now what I'm going to just do on this is I'm just going to kind of, you can see where the bottom is kind of square, but it goes a bit round. So I'm just going to kind of press to give that a bit more of a boxed bottom almost, because this foam is particularly strong. So I'm just going to give it another final press, because I do tend to manipulate them a bit and they get a bit squishy and squashy. That's better. That's much better. I'm happy with that. Right, that's all I needed, just to give that bottom bit a bit more of a square bottom. So you can see now it looks a little bit more boxy on the bottom. Right, so I'm going to go find my strap hardware, and I will be back to show you how to create your strap. So you're going to need this that you created earlier on, 2 swivel clips and a tri-glide.